Hi, my name is John McCartney and I'm a sophomore at the University of Michigan, and I'm going to be giving a short lesson on arrays in C++. So, in the past, we've learned how to store single pieces of information into single variables, such as integers, doubles, strings, chars, and booleans. But what if we wanted to store multiple values into a single variable, such as when we have a data set? So, for example, we have a data set full of GPAs. Surely we don't have to declare a variable for each single piece of data that we want to represent. So the answer to this is make an array. Now, what is an array? Well, an array is a series of elements that are stored in memory next to one another. How do we make an array? So an array is very similar to declaring a variable, where we have the data type, and then we have the variable name. But the key difference is we have this set of brackets at the end, and a given size of the array. So that's how we declare an array. Now, how do we initialize an array and fill it with values? So say we want to make an array of integers. We have int, the name of the array. Let's do 5 integers. Now we can initialize it like this. We set it equal, we do curly brackets, and then we list the elements that we want it to contain, keeping in mind the size. And then we close and the semicolon. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to declare it with size, and we can access each individual element in the array by including the element number inside the brackets and then assigning it that way. And so on. So an important thing to note here is that arrays are indexed at 0. So instead of starting at 1, they start at 0. And for instance, this array would go to 4. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, not 5. So that's just an important thing to note when working with arrays. Another thing is that when we declare an array, these elements can be modified at any time. So say we wanted to change the 4th element to 7. Then we would do array, and keeping in mind that it starts at 0, this means the 4th element is 3, and set that equal to 7. And now this 4 becomes a 7. Now going back to our GPAs, how would we turn this into an array? So we have our data type, double. We have the name, GPA, and we have in brackets the size of the array. And then we can write the values down. There. Now, instead of having to declare a new variable for each single piece, we could just make a single array and store each value inside the array. And we could just access these values by the name and the element number Now this would give us 3.25. So another important thing to note is that when you declare an array, the size must always be specified upon declaration. So there has to be something in here that tells it how big it is. So say 5. Or another way to do this is if you don't want to specifically put the size, we could leave it empty and then assign it a certain number of values, and that would implicitly say that the size of the array is 3 elements. Also, another thing to note is that the size of an array cannot be a variable. It must always be constant. So say we had int x equals 7. Now we can't make an array of size x, because what if x changes? Then that would mean the size of the array would change. And that concludes the lesson. Thank you.